This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work there too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack news. Sack news.
Radio.
Sack news. Sack news.
Radio. The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America. And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Well, that was so close. Welcome to another edition of the Sackheads Radio Show.
It's close when you do the intro.
Yeah, when I'm the one raising my hands. Listen, I am not the organized one in this particular group. I am, but I'm like the topic. I'm the content guy, right? That's my gig. I'm not the time guy. I'm not the tech guy. I'm not the intro guy. I'm the content guy. And I'm funny looking. But other than that, that's me. So when you're going back and forth with Socko Nuts and I'm waving my hands, that's not a positive start to it. Happy Wednesday, September 24th. There's nothing happening in the world this week, so we're just going to go ahead and
it's been a quiet one, so we're just going to play clips from old shows.
We're going to play clips from old shows. We're going to drink some beer. We're going to have a best of night. So it's.
I'm sure our listeners are like, those idiots are just crazy enough to do it, you know?
Actually, funny you say that. Socko, play clip number 1. No, I'm kidding. No, don't.
Don't play it yet.
Don't play it. Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm not doing well.
You're
I'm doing
not?
horrible.
Really?
Yeah, I'm doing horrible.
Oh, wow.
I literally, no, let me tell you this. I literally was looking at deals to like Hawaii and the Caribbean, and I was so close to actually booking a flight, but like one way, and not come back. I think I could still do the show from over there. I didn't even care about income or a place to stay.
I was going to say, wouldn't we get like a tax break if we based our business over there or something like that?
Right. I'm seriously like just about to punch out this whole thing. I'm just done. That was my week.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah. How about you, sir? How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's another crazy week, but it's going pretty good. I don't have I look at the world and I look at some of the things that are going on. Before I complain, especially now, I'm thinking of our service members this week. So, and all the cool things. And I'm also thinking, we're out here on the left coast, the left behind coast, if you will. But there's a massive wildfire raging not too far from us. And
right.
So I'm thinking of the people up there that lost their homes, that have been displaced. I also think of the fire insurance. Yeah, a lot of fire insurance. I also think of the firefighters that are up there that really, literally, there's some injured today that had to be airlifted out, trying to save the homes for these folks. So I cannot complain.
Did you say trying to save the homeless folks?
Trying to save the homes for those folks who were displaced by the fire. So, I can't complain. In the great scheme of things, I can't complain. Now, if I can complain if I want to get a little,
Yeah, for example, like if I had $200 in
let's
this
say I had
hand.
$200 in this hand. What was that in the hand? It's gone. You don't even remember what it is. So, so I do my thoughts and prayers with those folks up there at the King Fire in California, because there's a lot of destruction going on up there. And what's funny is the San Diego fire earlier in the year got huge attention nationally.
And this one's not getting much.
Not getting a lot
all.
of national attention. You keep seeing blurbs here and there, and it's one of the biggest fires since
hell. Since hell.
Since hell.
Like
Fire
literally
Brimstone.
since hell, I think.
But it's it's one of the biggest fires that has happened in a few years. There's more firefighters fighting it than they did the Rim fire 2 years ago, and it's the number one priority fire in the country. So, it's scary for those folks. I actually knew 2 people that were displaced by it. So fortunately, they're okay, and their house is okay now, and the firefighters getting the upper hand, and hopefully you'll get some rain tomorrow to help out.
Well, our prayers, I agree, are with the firefighters that are out there. For once, they're not like cooking chili and watching TV.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a positive. They're actually fighting fires and not just rolling med calls. But no, somebody slipped and fell. Yeah, let's roll this ladder truck. Right? How many times do you see that? Oh, I'm like, well, there's a ladder truck. There must be something really bad happening. Oh, that somebody, like a kid, skinned his knee.
Yeah.
No, but I'll tell you what, when the fires happen, those guys earn their money. And you wouldn't catch me within a foot of a... Like, I light a match and I scream.
Now,
and you've seen this.
I know, I have. I've always joked I'd be the best firefighter in the world till something was on fire.
Right, because you can cook chili and watch TV with the best of them.
I can sit in a Barca lounger 12, 14 hours, not even think twice about it.
Dude, your tri-tip is amazing.
As soon as that said tri-tip burns,
right,
I run like a little girl, screaming the whole way.
Right.
I actually grow pigtails to run away from the fire. That's how bad I am.
Like, I can do the whole Ghostbusters thing, right? Like, if we had the Sackhead station, if our studio wasn't an abandoned firehouse where we could slide down the pole, yes, I'm in.
You're right. And not do anything at all. I don't want to do anything.
Right. I just want to slide down the pole, like, while we're on the air.
Drive the big truck around?
Right.
How great would that be?
Exactly.
Until there's a fire.
Right.
Then it sucks.
Yes. Well, then we just put the out-of-service tabs up there in the window.
Stop at the bar.
Right.
Whoa, hey, sorry, guys. That looks dangerous.
Yeah, I've been drinking.
I have a hard time watering my garden. I can't imagine.
The hose is powerful for you.
It is. It's really big. There's a lot of pressure behind it. And I'm usually not sober. So seriously, our thoughts and prayers. And speaking of firefighters and that line of field, we have a new kid on the block at SHR Media that we're trying out.
We do, and I'm actually
like him.
we do like him, which is saying something given his background.
And the fact that he's from Jersey. Now listen,
right.
Being a Bostonian, but he and I went through sports teams, and he's okay.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. When you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself, talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
He is.
Yeah. So
he's not a Yankee guy.
Nope, not at all. Not a Jets fan. So he and I can get along.
Right.
And we got that out of the way early.
And you and I got that out of the way very early also.
As well. That's
yeah,
always...
like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, that was a huge... I think like when we first started actually drinking coffee and eyeing each other, and our relationship got to a point, I'm pretty sure it was day 3, where you were like, listen, right now, because it's kind of like in that whole this may go kind of like into a friendship, what are your sports teams?
Right. Here's how you avoid dying while talking to me. Number 1.
Right. Go Yanks. Right?
Oh,
no, that was a for example.
Right.
That was a for example.
And then there was a small gun fight, and then you were like, I was just kidding.
But now I'll call you the fire guys in the ladder truck.
Oh, man. So, Jersey Joe, as we like to call him, Politic Reaver, he's on Twitter, and he's also on our Spreaker feed right now. His first show, amazingly, before the whole, he was ahead of it, and I'll tell you why. So, and we're going to talk a little bit later about the Alinsky Clinton thing.
Whoa.
He did a show.
Be showbizzing the stuff here.
I'm not showbizzing, but he did a show
You're throwing a tease
last
out.
week, and he actually did a show for us last week that highlighted Rules for Radicals and how it is such the playbook for Democrats, and he really went through so much of it and really played it out right then, and did a damn good job doing it.
And I think you heard him first, and you sent the audio to Sacco and I.
Yep.
And I listened to his first show, and we had a discussion, and then he had a couple other shows, and I was able to listen to them. And he does a good job. We're very excited about him.
Awesome.
Please, we encourage you to check it out.
He also he's got the very prototypical New Jersey accent and the good voice, which I don't know why when somebody's talking to me in that accent, I feel like I should listen. Like, and I don't know if it's because I don't want to end up in a recycling yard somewhere or buried in, I don't know, the end of the Meadowlands or something like that. But when somebody has that thick Jersey accent, and he's still got a pretty thick accent, and so much in the show it's not as bad, it's kind of like me, but when you get him talking on the phone, he had that thicker Jersey accent, and I was just like, there's a good chance this guy imports olive oil. That's all I'm saying.
Now look, I do want to bring something to people's attention. We are such a conglomerate of misfits here at SHR.
Oh, we love it.
And here's why. We have conservatives and conservative libertarians in the bluest of states. We're based out of California, right? We've got a New Jersey fire guy. I mean...
And that's the other thing. Fire and EMS service for a long time, which is just amazing. But yeah, I mean, he's a good dude, and we do get quite a variety of people.
We've got a black guy. I mean, we run the gamut here. We run the gamut.
So real quick, because Sacco, you have it queued up, right? Ready to go?
Yeah, but I have it queued up.
What?
Go ahead, I'll play it.
All right, real quick, we're just going to play his intro, so you'll know when you're hearing it. Go for it. What? Way to go, Sacco.
What was that?
So, Sacco all of a sudden just decides to start remixing stuff. Egg is already in the chat. This sounds like us telling about all the hodgepodge of people that we have here on this amazing network.
Right.
Sounds like a Democratic talking point. Hey, we've got a black guy. We do actually have a black guy.
We do have a black guy.
So, real quick.
Yeah, so hang on a second here. How is that false advertising? And is he or is he not a misfit?
Oh man, yes, that is in fact a misfit. We are like the island of misfit toys.
Right, we've got a
Every
gay guy.
Christmas, yeah,
Sacco, right? He's happy. He's happy. Well, look, we took back the hate. We can say that.
Right, we did talk about that.
Yeah.
We did take back that hate. We just have a wide variety, and the best listeners and friends
Are women.
anywhere who listen. Really?
That is almost as good as the cold French fries.
Oh, man.
Okay, by the way,
Oh, boy.
here's something to do, and this may or may not have happened tonight. Walk into McDonald's or any fast food establishment, but I'm going to say McDonald's because this may have happened there. And not that I support McDonald's because of their view on gun control. However, walk in and just order 25 ice cream cones.
For no reason.
For no
They're
reason.
like $1 a piece.
Right, and just watch the reaction of the person taking your order.
I want to see how they hand them to you. Right? Do they have like a holder for 25 ice cream cones?
I don't think they do, but did you see that guy's face
Dude.
when I asked him?
So most people don't realize is Clint is exactly how he is on the show outside of the show. He doesn't change. This isn't a shtick. He is just this annoying Clint-like outside the show. So we walk in.
Fun. I prefer fun.
We walk in, and I order my food, and I go to pay with my card. And as soon as I swipe it, Clint looks at the guy and goes, "Hey, is that the one we found?" And the guy looks at me and looks back at him, and I was just like, yeah, that was the one that we found. I walk away.
No. You said,
yeah,
that's the one we found. Amazing what you can get when you knock somebody out.
Yes.
Was what you said.
So,
to be fair, I'm not the only smart ass here on the air.
Right.
Okay.
So then you paid with a 20, I'm assuming, because you were like, wow, I can't believe you took that one. I just made it. Or something to that effect.
No.
And then yelled at me across the restaurant, I'm going to try the hundredths next. Right? It never ends, folks. When I tell you, and that was just a small blurb of what was our 15, 20-minute dinner, right? In which you were just not harassing, they thought it was a riot.
Oh, they thought it was great. They were killing themselves. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I looked over at you across the restaurant, and I said, "Hey, Sean, they took that 20 we made.
We got to try the hundreds next." Oh, man. And, of course, everyone in the restaurant's looking, and all they see is a fat white guy and a tall guy with a big nose, and you just can't even figure out what the hell is going on with us. Oh, there's so much. There's a ton to talk about tonight. We're going to get into Syria. We're going to get.
We're already 5 minutes behind.
We're already
schedule.
5 minutes behind.
Way to keep us on track.
Sacco's yelling.
He is. I know. No, he threw a pen in it.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
We talk about ISIS, Obama at the UN, Syria, you name it, we're going to talk about it.
Okay, I'm going to name Lerner. Go.
What?
Lois Lerner.
What about her?
So she was doing an interview with Politico, and now you would think somebody in the midst of all this scandal would say, "Hey, I'm sorry," although that would be an admission of guilt, I suppose, right? Or, "Hey, this is unfortunate that we're going through this, or that people were targeted, or whatever the case is." That's not really how it went down.
Well, she's not sorry.
Well, I know she's not sorry. She's totally unapologetic.
Which is amazing to me. And here's
Is it really amazing to you?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't surprise me.
It amazes to me for the values that I grew up with. Let me rephrase that.
There you go. Yes.
Even if I didn't intentionally mean to do something wrong, when I have wronged a person or group of people, I am apologetic. And maybe something as simple as accidentally backing into a car, not meeting somebody on time, targeting their political group for personal political gain. Whenever I've done any of those things.
Right, trying to fundamentally transform the United States of America.
Right, doing what I can to silence certain political groups so their freedom cannot be utilized and stifle their ability to get their political message out for some sort of fair trial or something like that. When I do that, I feel bad afterwards. I feel a little, yeah, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have targeted you and violated the Constitution. I'm sorry.
Right, maybe you have a right to your particular point of view, and maybe I shouldn't just keep my thumb on you and be the oppressive creep that I am.
But here comes Lois, walking on down the lane.
Nice Superman reference. I see what you did there.
Lois, I've been wanting to use. I haven't had a chance to use that since this all started. It's in my notes of metaphors, similes, and other things to say on the air.
For like 4 pages ago.
Right, dude.
Like you flipped through and just pulled that one out. That was amazing.
But here comes Lois walking down the lane, and she doesn't say sorry. Like, listen, we know the
She has a super idea that she's going to target groups.
Right.
And says, man.
We know the end result. She actually said those words, man.
Yeah.
We know the end result was conservative groups were targeted. Now, intent, no intent, we can discuss that. But
if somebody's targeted, you have an intent.
But
I would argue.
Just throw it out for a second. The
Okay.
point is that they have stifled, targeted, and hurt political groups that were trying to push their message that they are legally allowed to do. If her actions, either intentional or non-intentional, led to the result, she should still have some sort of apology.
Well, so she said, and Fox News actually did an article about this Politico interview that she did, and one of her quotes is, "I'm proud of my career and the job I did for this country."
Oh, good.
So here's my initial reaction to that. My initial reaction to that was not, wow, she was proud to serve the United States of America. My initial reaction to that was, wow, was she proud the job she did for this country? Was she proud of the fact that she targeted conservative groups to make it more difficult for them because she believes this country should be going more to the left, and she thinks she did the right thing in pulling this country in that direction?
Actually, she did the left thing.
No, but that was my thought. It was not of, wow, she's proud to serve, right? Like
retire.
Right. If a military member said that, if a cop said that, if a firefighter said that, hey, I was proud of the job I did for my country, for my state, for my community, whatever it is, I'd say, hey, you know what, they were proud to serve.
People in public office who are elected. There's a lot of different variants that can be utilized.
This is not what I took from this quote, though. What I took is she's proud of the job she did for her country, meaning she did something she wasn't supposed to do or something illegal in order, in her belief, very Saul Alinsky-esque to segue.
Weird.
Right? The ends justify the means.
Yes.
And I honestly believe that's what I got from it. Now, segueing into Saul Alinsky, there was an article that came out this week. Actually, we're gonna table that. We're gonna table that for the next segment.
Really?
Yeah, we are. It was a beautiful segue. I know I set it up perfectly, but I just looked at the time. I have 11 minutes.
Oh, yeah, we got to go.
I have 11 minutes between my break. I already have Sacco already saw the board and how we have it set up, and he looked at me and kind of cocked his head to the side, so we're about 5 minutes behind.
All right,
so we're gonna rearrange that. Sacco, thanks for keeping us on point.
Speaking of Russia.
Yeah. No, wait, hang on. I got a good segue for that. Ready?
Yeah.
Speaking of, we're going to go ahead and just bump Hillary Clinton back a little bit before we talk about a Marxist leftist Saul Alinsky and that connection. Speaking of Marxism.
Russia.
What happened?
So 6 Russian planes were intercepted earlier this week.
We'll call them Kaepernicks.
2 Bear bombers, a couple of Aleutian refuelers, and MiG-31 Fox bats, I believe. And they were off the coast of Alaska and Canada. Canada
is no big deal.
A couple of CF-15s from Canada. Kel's not in the chat room to harass Canada, so it's not even worth it.
Oh, that's
a couple CF-15s intercepted. I think it was like 2 100 miles.
What Canada Scramble? The Cessna?
The
Look at
Piper
me,
Cub.
I'm a buzzboy.
Hey, oh, time to hit the old silk. Oh, good night, Holger.
Do we have audio from that intercept?
No, we do not. I tried really hard to get it. And if I can find it during the break, I'll link it in the chat room. It's perfect. But yeah, Canada would throw beers at them.
Hey,
Fox 2. Fox 2, eh? And then a little while later, we scrambled a couple of our jets, the real ones, and popped up and intercepted them and essentially drove them back. Once again, and this has been going on a long time.
dude, that sounded like a battle. We scrambled 2 of our fighters,
against 6 of their planes.
Against 6 of their planes. We drove them back. We nailed it.
And I know, it was funny. I was reading a whole bunch of different things in chat rooms about this, and there was a guy who said he worked for NORAD in the 80s. I'm going to take his word for it. I don't think you throw that out unless you have some sort of knowledge. And he said, you don't understand, this used to happen all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's really not a big deal. And I said to myself, well, it is a big deal because in the 80s we were in a Cold War.
Yes.
We are technically not in a Cold War right now. And the Russians were doing that to test our responses, look for gaps in our NORAD and our air defense systems, our early warning systems, and essentially to push our buttons a little bit.
But not the big button because they were scared of that.
Right.
Yeah.
But the little buttons, they would have taken a couple planes lost to make us look like the monsters from people they were trying to garner money from, etc. So, yes, it wasn't a big deal then, and it wouldn't be a big deal now.
Hair thinning can happen for so many reasons. Whether it's stress or hormones or anything, at Nutrafol we've learned that real change starts below the surface. Our hair growth supplements take a whole body approach and target the key root causes of hair thinning, so you can see visibly thicker, stronger hair in 3 to 6 months.
Hair growth starts from the inside at Nutrafol.com. That's Nutrafol.com.
Taxes was waiting around for your taxes to be done, which led to worrying about not getting any money back. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes in a day to get you up to $4,000 fast with a refund advance loan. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Expert filing only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Refund advance has $0 loan fees and 0% APR. Refund advance loans may be issued by First Century Bank, N.A. or Web Bank. Terms apply. Subject to approval.
If we weren't at such an advantageous state with Russia.
Adversarial.
What did I say?
You said something different.
Okay.
But I know what you meant. It's been a long week. Because Russia certainly does have the advantage. I saw a meme this week where it's Putin and like a big cartoon middle finger is drawn.
Check out our Twitter at Sackheads. It's on there.
Is it?
Yes.
That's the one I said. Okay. So just all over Obama's face. Look, we have documented these cases going back, and we traced it on previous shows. Go back and check it out. No, I don't know what episode it was. Just listen to them all. You'll love it. Where we've documented from when Hillary Clinton took over as Secretary of State, the slight with Russia about the election with Putin and kind of how that changed our relationship with them. Putin comes into power, starts pushing our buttons, and we start seeing flights on the 4th of July, flights close to the American coast, intercontinental ballistic missiles now taking worldwide cruises, which they had not done before since the Cold War, a Russian boomer parked in the Gulf of Mexico for 30 days undetected. So all of these things start playing out, and that's why we bring this up when we hear about them. I think this is a big deal. There's a reason Russia is provoking us and going back to this Cold War mentality. I would submit, and we asked Congressman Sessions when we saw him, hey, are we headed towards or are we in another Cold War? And it was kind of, I would say, there was some sidestepping, but I actually liked him. He gave a pretty coherent answer, and we talked about that. So that's why we bring this up. Look, there's a reason. And usually these intercepts, it's 2 Bear bombers. It's 2 Bear bombers towards California, or it's 2 Bear bombers towards the Alaskan coastline. This was 6 aircraft.
Yeah.
And I don't recall.
This was escort, refuel, and bombers.
Right, and I don't recall hearing recently about a force of 6 planes. I recall hearing about 2 planes, but not 6. So this is a little more significant for me. I could be wrong. They could have had 6 planes, 8 planes, 12 planes several times. I don't know.
No, I think this is, in recent memory, this is the most planes in one thing. And listen, that's a typical escort group for their bombing capabilities and their bombing strategy. From what I understand, you had your defense.
You've got fighter cover.
Yeah, you have fighter cover, refueling to be able to go that extra leg, and obviously the bombers themselves. So it is starting to become more and more scary. Listen, there was a great article, I wish I could find out where I read it, that showed the similarities between Putin and Stalin without the murders. You know, without just the murdering.
Without the murders that we know of.
And as you read it, there's a lot of really scary similarities.
Well, they're both communists.
Yes.
So... yes, I mean, of course, there's going to be similarity. I mean, that
and
makes
it's going to be
perfect sense
interesting to see. Yeah, and just touching on Russia and not jumping the gun, but it's going to be interesting to see his response. And I know he's already said a couple things about us with Syria, but his actual response about us being involved in his buddy's country, because
we're not. We're just bombing stuff over there.
We're not really doing much.
Hey, listen, until he gets the hell out of the Ukraine, he really can't say too much.
And I know it's far in the great scheme of things, but it's not far for our ability with our missiles. Think about how far away Cyprus is from where we're bombing, and that's his warm weather port. That's the only one that he really has in that area all year round that he can really run. And think about everything that he parks there, and we're not
in Syria?
far. Yeah,
where Aswad is raining.
Yes,
right now.
Yes. And it's not. It's really not far. So it's going to be interesting to see. Did
Putin put Aswad in place?
Aswad, I don't know.
That's his name, right?
Yes, I don't know. No, I think it could be Aswad.
Yeah, Aswad.
I think so. Bashar Aswad.
Bashar Aswad.
Something like
Poor
that.
guy.
I forget. You want to talk about if he grew up here? Oh man, he'd be the face of anti-bullying. What's your name, Bashar Aswad? Oh man, Democrats would be having posters of him, and
they do.
Don't bully Bashar. Don't bully Bashar. And oh man. Oh,
the bullies would have stomp the Aswad.
Stop the Aswad. Ass kicking for Aswad. Oh man, no, really though.
We're up against a break.
Just think it was only 10 years ago that Pelosi wanted to go hang out with him. We are up against a break. Sacco, you have our break ready to
weird.
go?
Pelosi
this time?
and Aswad? That's
yeah.
Crazy.
Bashar Pelosi. That's what their love child was named. If they had one.
If they had one.
Unconfirmed reports. If they had one.
Would it be Pistol Grip Aswad?
It could be Pistol Grip Bashar.
Pistol Grip Bashar. I've seen that. Matter of fact, if you Google it, I'm pretty sure we can Google image that, and it might be pretty inappropriate, but I think we have that somewhere.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberty, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Radio.
And we're back here on the Sackheads radio show. Ken in the chat room. I wish somebody cared, CAIR, about the defiling of Aswad's name. Oh, but nobody does.
You know what? There's something very subliminal hidden in that.
Uh-huh.
Ken, you don't have to answer this if you want, but based upon that comment, have you ever defiled an Aswad? You just swallowed your gum.
Oh, boy. You know,
he got pretty sensitive about that. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just really glad that Mrs. Ken doesn't listen to our show.
She might, Rabbit. She might.
Somebody said Kerr is the David Duke of Islam. Ag said that in the chat room. That's actually really good.
That's pretty good.
Oh, man. So we touched a little bit earlier about...
You touched Hillary Clinton earlier. On the topic.
On the topic.
I meant on the topic.
Oh, man. I'm done for the night. I'm going home.
Yeah,
that just ruined everything in my life ever.
Okay,
just
hang on.
image.
Matchup.
Oh, no.
Hillary Clinton.
Janet Reno.
And Janet Reno. I was going to say Piston Grip Pelosi.
No, Hillary and Janet.
That's a good... Who wins?
Janet.
Okay, $5,000 tax-free. Hillary Clinton, Janet Reno, oiled up, and you, underwear only.
Nope.
In the ring.
Nope.
Tax-free.
Nope.
$5,000.
Nope.
$100,000.
Stop. People in the chat room are yelling brain bleach. It's time to move on. And they're just in a two-piece. Sorry, folks. Turn us back on. Please don't turn us off. It happens at times. We lose control on the show. It just happens. Just don't, whatever you do, don't close your eyes and sit in deep thought and think about that.
And think about that and flaps of skin. So Hillary Clinton came out. There was some correspondence.
The Koch brothers could not pay me enough. Jersey Joe said it. Apparently Mrs. Ken does listen to our show, and she loves our jokes about his multiple personalities, Ken's.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah,
because you do have multiple personalities. You got Ken the black guy.
Right.
You've got Ken...
The exceptional conservative Ken on his show where it's all business.
It's all
the
business.
Time. I'll throw in a
Carlton.
Yeah, I'll throw in the occasional joke, but overall, I'm pretty straightforward. And then it's Ken on our show.
And straight-laced.
Yeah. Then it's Ken on our show. Yo, what up, homie?
Right.
Where are the white women at? Ken's will do it as long as they're in a one piece for $1 million.
Okay, Ken, but you got to be buck naked.
Poor Ken, don't do that to him. All I can think of is Ernie Hudson in Ghostbusters. Since I've started this job, I have seen that will turn you white. No, so, we found out there was a secret love affair between...
No, that's unconfirmed.
Oh, all right, that's unconfirmed.
Yeah, it's an unconfirmed report that Saul Alinsky had a love affair with Hillary Clinton.
It would make sense, though.
And maybe fondled her, but that's totally unconfirmed.
It's pending investigation.
It's pending investigation. We don't know if that actually happened. But is it possible?
Yes.
Of course it's possible, right? Because she was sending him letters marked personal.
Right.
So, I mean, who sends that? To an older, male, influential
Lots
figure,
of money. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, somebody she's really trying to get an impression on. Hillary may have had daddy issues.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We just don't know.
It's all unconfirmed. These are things that I think need to be looked in upon. But the Washington Free Beacon had a report. They got their hold on some correspondence, which was previously unpublished, between Hillary Clinton, now Hillary Clinton, and Saul Alinsky. Well, she was Hillary Rodham, right, back then.
Yeah.
Rodman.
Rodham.
Was she married to Dennis, or is she related?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
They might be cousins.
Okay. Okay. Were they married at one point? It doesn't matter. Her love life is none of our business.
Jersey Joe in the chat room says you can either confirm or deny that Saul Alinsky touched Hillary Clinton's no-no spot.
Is it really a no-no, though?
Iggy wants to know if they're brothers.
Who, Hillary and Dennis?
Yes.
Rodham?
Also, just a quick update. I am being warned that I have to be straight-laced on Ken's show Tuesday. I'm going to do everything I can. And Ag's adding that
I'm
Dennis...
definitely going in Tuesday night.
Dennis could be the love child of Hillary Rodham and Fred Gwynn, who is Herman Munster on the Munsters. So, you never know, right?
You never know. This is all unconfirmed. Things that our listenership is investigating on our behalf. And we
minds
certainly
want to
appreciate
know.
that.
I want to know.
Will you get down to business?
Come
already?
on, dude. You're always messing around on this show. We have important politics to cover. Go.
Seriously. No, go. So anyways, Saul Alinsky, if you don't know who he is, he says he never aligned himself with any political party.
No.
Right? He doesn't like politics or political parties, but he does have Marxist viewpoints. And he did write a couple very influential books. One of them is Rules for Radicals, where he outlines 12 rules for community organizing. Community organizing.
Weird. Who else
Where have I
would be a
heard that
community
before?
organizer?
Nobody who would ever get elected president, so that's
No,
good.
gosh,
Never mind.
No. Lord,
Where
no.
he really organizes the folks on the left and the folks who were radicals before. He's the one who was famous for basically saying, this isn't the exact quote, but something to the effect of, hey, we need to cut our hair, we wear suits, and basically take power from within.
Stop being hippies. Stop being dirty, stinky hippies.
No, that's what we said.
Oh, right.
Remember?
Can't go lovers of America.
But he has, and we covered this on an early episode of Sackheads Radio, and in his book, there's he dedicates it to somebody, and the dedication in the book says, quote, "From all our legends, mythology, and history, and who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which, the first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom, Lucifer." So he dedicates his book, Rules for Radicals, to the devil.
RZ got that from the beginning. Right away, boom, nailed it.
What?
He knew exactly what you were talking about.
Perfect. Now, the other thing that makes this more interesting is, I believe it was in 1971. It was before his death, a few months before his death. He actually did an interview with Playboy. And I heard. I don't know. I was guessing. And in that, they asked, and I don't recall the exact exchange, but it was something about, hey, if you had the chance to go to heaven or hell, where would you go? And he said, hell.
It's more fun there.
It was basically, well, no, what he said in essence is, I've been hanging around, that they're my type of people. I've been hanging around this type of people my whole life up here. If anything, I could get them together down there and organize. I mean, so he basically talks about how he would rather go to hell anyways and be around those kinds of people because those are his kind of people. So I think it puts this dedication in a little bit.
Well, because he thinks he can manipulate it and be in
perspective.
charge at the end. I think that's what it had to do with.
God, who else was like that? Cass Sunstein. And I'd be worried if he was in somebody's cabinet, or if his wife was like a UN ambassador.
Yeah, that
Powers.
would bother me.
That would bother me. It's a good thing nothing like that would ever happen here in America. So it's interesting that she's
Ted
corresponding.
Butcher said, so he essentially dedicated the book to Hillary?
No, Hillary's father. This is who Hillary Clinton, during her years in college, her formative years, right? She's really starting to get involved in politics and organizing and really starting to launch her career and see where she wants to go in her life. And she is getting personal correspondence with Saul Alinsky, to the fact where she's sending him letters marked personal, and his secretary knows who she is.
So she pulls it from the pile.
Yeah.
Opens it because she was afraid that it was time sensitive, which it was, because as you read through, she even suggests that they, on the return correspondence, that they meet up while he was in San Francisco on a stopover from, I believe, Asia coming home or vice versa. And Hillary's down there in Berkeley, which is not far.
Right. So he was over looking for a wife, and coming back, she wants to hook up with him. Essentially, right? Essentially, maybe. This unconfirmed, but
Right.
we're looking into this.
You know, they just want to get together and
connection. That's free love, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, is this important? Is this potentially important in an upcoming election, or is this look? Obama got away with it.
Well, why is this important now? And I think is a better question. And the answer is simple. We've seen what happens when you let
a radical
into
the White House,
influenced by communism, socialists, Marxists.
So let me tell you a story about this week. So I was near the state capitol in downtown Sacramento, and I was kind of around the grounds, and I was talking just to random folks about Saul Alinsky. And some of these people actually work in the building in positions of government. And nobody knew who Saul Alinsky was. They were mispronouncing his name. They called it Sally Linsky. They were saying different things. Yes,
that's what he went by when he dressed up like a woman. Unconfirmed reports.
Right.
Unconfirmed.
Right. The movie Tootsie may have had a loose connection. We don't know.
We're not 100% Dustin Hoffman.
We don't know.
Did Dustin Hoffman play Sally Linsky?
Sally, I think that might have been the character's name in the movie Tootsie. So, but this is a This is why this is a problem. The media can push this movie out. The Washington Free Beacon can push it out. Fox News can run it. A couple places, I think Huffington Post or somebody had a story on it. So people can run it, but nobody knows who Saul Alinsky is anymore. And if you don't know who Saul Alinsky is anymore, you think, oh, big deal. Or if you Google it and you look up a Wikipedia page, oh, it was a guy who didn't want to talk about what his political affiliations were, and he just wanted to organize labor and be against the big meanie. But you really don't get into what the rules are.
You know your history. That's the problem.
Yeah,
don't let them rewrite it to a way that's convenient, yet the influence is still there.
And in a big way, look, this is like Cloward and Piven. They had an influence on the Clintons. Miss Piven, Skeletor, was actually at an event with President Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
So these radicals,
God. You know,
and they're the ones.
Every time I see her now, you know, we used to call her Skeletor, but I just think of Indiana Jones, the original, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the guy melts.
Yeah, yes.
That's all I can think of when I see Francis Fox Piven.
So, and they were basically talking about, hey, how do you collapse the system? This is how you collapse the system, erect a new one in its place, right? Bring down the system that you don't like. Evil stuff. And Saul Alinsky's book is still used today by radicals. And look, I know there's people on the right that use it too. But the left has really put these rules into practice and have really been successful. And it's scary. Look, in a nutshell, here's some of them. There are 12 rules outlined. And rule number 1, power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Okay, it's derived basically from two main sources, money and people. Have-nots must build power from flesh and blood. Rule number 2, never go outside the expertise of your people. It results in confusion, fear, and retreat. Feeling secure adds to the backbone of anyone. Organizations under attack wonder why radicals don't address the real issue. This is why. They avoid things with which they have no knowledge. Okay, and these you can. Glenn Beck's website actually has, it's bestofbeck.com, actually has Saul Alinsky's 12 Rules for Radicals, the complete list outlined for you if you want to check it out.
If you want to get it in audio and really understand it, listen to Jersey Joe's show on SHR Media on our Spreaker, and he goes through them all. And again, really does a great job of explaining it, and actually gives you examples of where it's been used. It's definitely worth the listen. So check him out.
Then I got nothing else. That's pretty much where I was going to go with it, so I got nothing else. I'm going to throw it to you.
Well, Iggy said in the chat room she knew so much about Saul Alinsky that she could write a 96-page thesis about him. And listen, there's no...
Iggy could write a thesis about him?
No, Hillary.
Oh.
I'm sure. I would actually rather read Iggy's thesis on Saul.
Absolutely.
Because I think that would be outstanding.
And I'm pretty sure Iggy could prove that Saul Alinsky and Lucifer may in fact have been one and the same, and that he was such an egotistical person that he dedicated the book to himself.
I see what you did there.
You see what I did there?
I see what you did there. That was pretty impressive.
Thank you.
And you can listen. You see,
I do want to talk about one of the rules in particular. I won't go through them all. We have it on the network with the new show, so we don't want to showbiz it. But rule number 4 was make the enemy live. Rule number 5, ridicule is man's most potent weapon.
Yes. Well, and I talk. You see this all the time, and you may not even realize it. I always think of Harry Reid. Is one of the biggest bomb tossers in that regard. You look at how the left has abused the Tea Party and done whatever they can to essentially just ridicule them, oftentimes with outright lies, more often than not.
Yes.
Pure, unadulterated fallacies that aren't even in the ballpark.
Yeah, and look, people will believe it, right? If you say it long enough and loud enough, it's the truth. Rule number 12, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Cut off the support network, isolate the target from sympathy, go after people, not the institutions. People hurt faster than institutions. This is cruel but very effective. Direct, personalized criticism and ridicule works.
Well,
what kind of a prick writes this?
I was talking to a friend about this not too long ago. No, and I'm going to give you an example of. I was talking to a friend not too long ago, and we were talking about this, and he's actually very well read with a lot of this stuff. And he said, picture it this way. Walk into a bar full of people, say at 5:30 in the afternoon in a downtown area. There's just 75, 80 people in there, and they're after work, having a couple drinks, hanging out. And just find one guy who looks a little bit different. Maybe he's a little disheveled or just different, sitting down the end of the bar by himself, and yell these words and point at him. That guy is a pedophile, and walk out. What do you think is going to happen? Nobody in that room thinks they're not going to do anything.
They're not going to research it.
They're not going to research it, right? That guy could very well be dead before he leaves that place.
He could also be a pedophile.
Right. I mean, there is a chance that you're right, but the reality is...
For example, big, thick Coke rim glasses.
We actually have a list that we could go down. No, but he's got a point is, all you have to do is if you make a strong enough
assertion
about something, people aren't going to research the facts. They're not going to follow up on it. And society's being more and more trained to just take things at face value and listen to certain people and not others. And it's really simple. You tear people down and you start slowly, but you turn them into what people believe are the enemy, and then you can say whatever you want about them, and it'll carry water.
Right. For example, we made Sacco carry some water earlier, and he dropped it. But we could walk into a bar with Sacco and say, Sacco's gay.
Right.
and walk out. And Sacco may get beat up. Now, would we be held accountable?
Yeah.
Well, no, because he's happy. We took back the hate. Obviously, these people don't listen to our show.
Jersey Joe just linked a great quote, and I want to read it from Mary Frances Berry, the former chairwoman of U.S.Com. Tainting the Tea Party movement with the charge of racism is proving to be an effective strategy for Democrats. There is no evidence that the Tea Party adherents are any more racist than other Republicans, and indeed many other Americans. But getting them to spend their time purging their ranks and having candidates distance themselves should help Democrats win in November. Having one's opponents rebut charge of racism is far better than discussing joblessness.
Yeah.
Prime example. Saul Alinsky. He might as well have written that himself.
He may have.
A very successful prick, as Agador puts it. But it's true. And
I would say he's evil.
Oh, yeah. No, I would, too. I would say that there is a part of evil there that we've never even understood.
And I would say it's evil because, look, I think with these tactics and what he's trying to do is he is trying to overthrow and overturn our way of life and our system of government.
And you look at the circles that he ran with. And
in doing so, he is taking away our God-given rights and freedoms and liberty as given to us just by the very nature of our existence, right?
Right, just by being born.
So that's evil. What is more evil than that, than taking away somebody's liberty or taking away the liberty or rewriting or reframing the liberty and the freedoms of an entire nation of people? The freest people that the world has ever known. What is more evil than that?
Giving somebody cold French fries.
Which happened to you tonight also, and which I called out. So, way to bring this right back around, because now I have to tell the story. So, Sean gets his food first. And, literally, we ordered right after each other. And Sean gets his food, his tray's ready. The guy pushes it towards him, says, "Here you go, sir." Looks at me and says, "Is this your number whatever?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, it's going to be about 3 minutes for the fries." And I looked at him, I said, "Perfect." So you gave him the old shit. Good. And the guy was like, "Well, I get you new fries if you want, sir." And Sean, being the nice guy he is, says, "No, they're fine. They're warm and everything."
And there was nothing wrong with them. I tested them right away to make sure, because I've gotten cold fries.
Right. I was like, "No, hey, thanks for the fresh stuff." And the guy had no idea how to react to that. And his coworkers were killing him. So they thought it was absolutely hilarious. But the manager's the one that pushed the food to
and then
you.
He apologized 4 times and he kept asking me if I wanted hot fries. And I'm like, "Dude, stop spending your I don't want anything."
Right.
Fine.
No, I think what you said is, "I don't want hot fries." To which I replied, "See, he likes cold French fries. Thanks for giving him the bottom." And he was just spun.
If you really want to look at just that whole, it's amazing when you start looking into the group of people
that work at those places.
Obama. Oh, he's never worked at those
places.
Never worked at those that would involve work. You look at Obama, Clinton, and then you start looking at Fox Piven. You start looking at Saul Alinsky. You start looking at Cass Sunstein. Eric Holder. You look at that whole group of people and how they've intertwined on many different levels, and you look at the type of influences.
They've cut their hair.
That's it.
They've put on suits.
Yeah. I say this all the time, and it is 100% true. When you see a group of protesters and they're trying to get you to sign whatever their cause is, doesn't matter what it is. And if you live in any capital city throughout the country, you get this all the time, only because the capital's right there and they're trying to influence people. I've always said I am more likely to at least listen to the person that walks up to me, it's in a pair of khakis and a polo shirt with a clipboard, than I am the hippie with the ripped Greenpeace shirt, 2 different flip-flops, and they smell like they just rolled out of a Greenpeace boat. You know what I mean? And it's very true. You cut your hair, you clean yourself up, you make your insane propositions, laws, rules presentable by you being presentable. Then people will listen to you. And it's something that is very scary because it does happen. And I can understand just by seeing it on a small level, you can see how the masses are easily affected.
I have an idea.
Yes.
So what would happen if we, put on a black T-shirt that's ripped with a big anarchist symbol on it. And we got a couple more facial piercings. And we didn't bathe for a few weeks. We didn't bathe for a few weeks. And we had some nasty clothes on. And we went into the Occupy movement. And we began spewing our conservative rhetoric.
Well, they always have a handler in those groups. We could start. And
what if we just went in there and random people?
But
right, just started because who would they listen to?
We've seen this, and if you watch videos, it happens all the time. When people are infiltrated, especially the left, when they're infiltrated, and you and I have done this with people, we've proven to them, as much as they want to say they're a Democrat, we've proven to them that they are anything but. But
we have, and there's a prime example.
Right.
Who is now a listener of this show.
Yes. And I think she is absolutely... really her eyes have been open, and I think she'll admit that.
No, they're not. I don't think they were open. I think she just didn't
know how to align herself.
She didn't realize that she was as conservative as she is.
But but what happens,
because she's a flaming conservative.
What happens in those big groups on the left and their meetings and even the Occupy movements, they always have handlers around who know what they're talking about and know what they don't want. And if you watch any of those videos and the funny guy that's always on O'Reilly, he always gets stopped after a while because he'll start showing people that they're giving them conservative answers, and all of a sudden some handler will run up and be like, whoa, we don't want you to talk here, separating them because they're starting to make sense. So that's the other thing that they don't do is, or they do.
Waters World?
Waters World, thank you, John Waters. They make sure... Jesse Waters.
A real famous
Maxine
guy.
Waters.
Real famous guy.
But they make sure that those people are isolated from any chance of reality touching them. And I think that's one of the reasons why you look at Flood Wall Street this week and the Occupy movement. They get them in such large numbers that people are afraid to approach them. Unions have been doing that for a long time.
Could you imagine if the Occupy movement got in contact or started doing something with the environmental movement?
That would just be stupid.
That would just be ridiculous.
Dude, I looked at that group and I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Let's flood Wall Street. Let's do it now.
Ready and go.
I don't know. Where are the pumps? We got to figure this out.
Call the fire guys.
All joking aside, though, no, they're going to have to flood Wall Street to clean it after the mess that those people left there this week. Dude, the best thing in the world is, hey, we blew the Occupy movement. And our focus was horrible. And we started splitting off in all these different groups within the Occupy movement, and that's one of the big reasons why it's failed. Why don't we add an other objective and see if we can really get both objectives to stick at the same time? Go! I mean, you want to talk about just the epitome of jackassery and then the hypocrisy of it all. If you go to our Twitter account, and if you followed any of the Flood Wall Street hashtags, I spent a damn good time and had a blast of pointing out every single hypocrisy those people, all the people with horn-rimmed glasses that are wearing those plastic framed, stupid horn-rimmed glasses there, not realizing their glasses were made from petroleum. Plastics come from petroleum. All the trash that they left there, the 35-foot paper banners that they were using for signs.
It was recycled paper, Sean.
Thousands of cups, all the extra diesel fuel. All the extra diesel fuel that the trucks will have to expend to clean it up. All the extra fuel the cars expended for all the traffic. The government waste, the amount of money they have to sit and have police, fire, and EMS
but that's okay.
Right, because that's everyone's money.
Right.
And the best part is if you look at their piles of trash, it's all Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, iPhone boxes, you anti-capitalist pigs. You really live the dream, huh? I'm seeing somebody on Instagram take a picture with their iPhone at an anti-capitalism event. I couldn't... The irony in that hurts so bad.
But they don't get that. Right? They don't get that.
It was the most amazing. I had such a great time with that. I'm like, you morons. This is going against your entire protest. Environment, you throw in the box away. You're not even recycling it. You toss it on the ground. And anti-capitalism. Where do you think that Starbucks cup came from?
That's like seeing a Jewish guy driving a Volkswagen.
Right.
Right.
Like, why?
Why are you? That was Hitler's idea, right?
No.
Oh, you have a Mercedes? Hey, you know they were part of the Nazi war effort, right? Like, my grandfather would never buy anything Mitsubishi, anything that was part of the Japanese war effort.
Yes.
Because of what he did in World War II. Mm-hmm. And his brother would never buy any German manufactured anything.
Yeah. I had one grandfather who was in the Atlantic, very quiet about his time there. Occasionally something else would come out. My grandfather, my father's father, who was in the Pacific, has no problem telling you any of his beliefs against the people that he fought, in no short words. So much so that I can remember being young, he refused to go to a Japanese restaurant. So.
Oh yeah, no, my grandfather was the same way. like no, very very upfront. He was in Pearl Harbor.
Yep.
He fought in Guadalcanal.
Yep.
I mean there was no love lost at all.
Oh man, history. Let's not forget it, folks. We are up against a break. Yeah, I know.
Sacco just...
I know. Dude, I know, Sacco. It's 9:01. Stop throwing it at us, all right?
I apologize, Sacco.
Fine. When we come back, ISIS, here on SHR Media Network, Sackheads Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in a separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Here's radio.
And we're back here at the Sackheads Radio Show. We're in the 9 o'clock hour, where we're getting into the fight against ISIS. You know, France actually dropped a bomb.
You dropped a bomb on...
No. Like literally, they dropped a bomb.
Really?
Yeah, in part of this whole war effort. I think on the outside they wrote, "Please don't hurt us" or something like that.
It was painted like a white flag.
Yeah,
they didn't know what else to put on it.
I think that's what their aircraft have on them. But somebody, I think like an American airman had to say, "Well, hey, you're supposed to have some red and blue on there.
There's something
on
else
either
in there.
side." And, whatever,
Oh, we ran out of the paint.
So there was a French citizen that was beheaded as a result of France's
in Algeria today, right? Was it Algeria? Yeah.
As a result of France's participation in the airstrikes against ISIS and ISIL, and we began a offensive. Well, I wouldn't even call it an offensive, an air campaign there, along with some Arab countries in the region.
Yeah, Qataris. Well, I don't know what the Qataris did other than just like, hey, go guys.
Whoa, hey, here's some gas.
Not even that. Bahrain, Jordan, United Arab Emirates, who had gold-plated F-15s. That's what I heard, I swear.
I think they were platinum.
I swear, I heard that. Our guys are like, really? They get the gold-plated ones? And
then they paint it camo.
Just because they can.
Right.
They'll have Bluetooths on their gold-plated iPhone 6 flying. You guys don't get a signal up here? No, they give us a booster in the plane. And the Americans, we actually went into Syria, and this is kind of a game changer, especially because this president was willing to send last year Tomahawks against the Assad regime for their use of chemical weapons, which I wasn't against.
No.
I did say that he should go to Congress. He did, and it didn't turn out well for him. He didn't get his way. Why? Because we weren't in election mode, and nobody wanted. They didn't want to be the hate monger, warmonger, all the things they accused Bush of, and now this president's kind of being forced into. They didn't want to be the person that voted for that, so they voted it down. And now here we are, almost a year later, almost to the day. We're in Syria throwing bombs, but this time it's at ISIS and Khorasan.
But we're not the planet?
No, not where the Imperial Senate's headed out. You're thinking of Coruscant.
No, that's like a French pastry.
No, that's croissant.
I am so confused right now. We had a Star Wars reference, a French-Danish reference.
French-Danish reference. Oh, man. So, and, this was kind of a strange... We all knew it might be coming. I mean, we telegraphed it, which I hate the fact that we do that.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to be bombing you in a few days.
And insider tips have said that a lot of ISIS people were moved and equipment was moved knowing that the attack was coming shortly, which really, really kind of grinds my gears, if you will. It's funny, and Jersey Joe hit it in the chat room right away, is remember when Biden was accusing Romney of wanting to bomb Syria? And also, remember, it's funny how right Romney was on a lot of this stuff. We didn't always agree with Mitt, and we didn't think he was necessarily the best person to be running. He certainly isn't the best conservative out there. But Mitt's not a dumb man by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
And he knew this was coming. We all knew this was coming on some level. ISIS was ignored for a long time, and then this Khorasan group gets thrown into it. Nobody had heard of them. But they're an al-Qaeda offshoot, from what we understand, and they were apparently just days from launching an attack. And I wonder if those missing Libyan planes had anything to do with that attack, because they haven't
no
any details on that attack.
No.
But they were about to launch an attack on Europe and, or, according to U.S. intelligence, the American home front. So how would they have those two options open if they didn't already have, A, boots on the ground within a few days, or B, a vessel to get that distance in a short amount of time? I'm not necessarily putting the dots together, but you heard it here first. I think those Libyan planes had a lot to do with it. So we launched bombs 2 days ago, and the next day, Sacco, it's going to be clip number 1. I believe the president came out to tell us all about it.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Last
Oh,
night,
wait.
on my orders, America's armed forces
boy.
began strikes against ISIL targets in Syria. Today, the American
Not
people
true.
give thanks for the extraordinary service of our men and women in uniform, including the pilots who flew these missions with the courage and professionalism that we've come to expect from the finest military that the world's ever known. Earlier this month, I outlined for the American people our strategy to confront the threat posed by the terrorist group known as ISIL. I made clear that as part of this campaign, the United States would take action against targets in both Iraq and Syria, so that these terrorists can't find safe haven anywhere. I also made clear that America would act as part of a broad coalition, and that's exactly what we've done. We were joined in this action by our friends and partners, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Bahrain, and Qatar. America is proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with these nations on behalf of our common security. The strength of this coalition makes it clear to the world that this is not America's fight alone. Above all, the people and governments of the Middle East are rejecting ISIL and standing up for the peace and security that the people of the region and the world deserve. Meanwhile, we will move forward with our plan supported by bipartisan majorities in Congress to ramp up our effort to train and equip the Syrian opposition, who are the best counterweight to ISIL and the Assad regime. And more broadly, over 40 nations have offered to help in this comprehensive effort to confront this terrorist threat, to take out terrorist targets, to train and equip Iraqi and Syrian opposition fighters who are going up against ISIL on the ground, to cut off ISIL's financing, to counter its hateful ideology, and to stop the flow of fighters into and out of the region. Last night, we also took strikes to disrupt plotting against the United States and our allies by seasoned al-Qaeda operatives in Syria who are known as the Khorasan Group. And once again, it must be clear to anyone who would plot against America and try to do Americans harm that we will not tolerate safe havens for terrorists who threaten our people. I've spoken to leaders in Congress, and I'm pleased that there is bipartisan support for the actions that we're taking. America is always stronger when we stand united, and that unity sends a powerful message to the world that we will do what's necessary to defend our country. Over the next several days, I will have the opportunity to meet with Prime Minister Abadi of Iraq and with friends and allies at the United Nations to continue to building support for the coalition that is confronting this serious threat to our peace and security. The overall effort will take time. There will be challenges ahead, but we're going to do what's necessary to take the fight to this terrorist group for the security of the country and the region and for the entire world. Thanks. God bless our troops. God bless America.
Now, one of the reporters, it sounded like she was saying, is there a danger of living here in the United States? Did you hear that?
Yes.
In the background. So, the president said we're going to do everything we can, correct, to deal with this threat, basically protect Americans, all that good stuff. So, there was a Democratic representative, Tim Bishop, out of New York, and he said in a speech, and Washington Free Beacon reported on it on the 19th, September 19th, or so earlier in the week, and he said that up to 40 radicalized U.S. citizens who have traveled abroad, who have traveled to Iraq, and they went there with the purposes to fight alongside ISIS or ISIL, and that of the 100 or so who have traveled to the Middle East to join in to fight with ISIS or ISIL, 40 of them or so have returned to the United States. So we have 40 radicalized ISIS or ISIL members or people,
identified.
U.S. citizens identified, who have traveled there, fought against our people, fought alongside ISIS or ISIL, and now they're back here in the United States. Now put that on hold for a second, and let's go to the terror attack and the arrests that were made in Australia.
Yes.
Where there were radicalized Muslims. A plot was foiled where they planned on kidnapping random people within the population, and they were going to behead them and then post those videos. Random attacks. Random people being attacked, random people being kidnapped and beheaded in the streets in Australia. Plot was foiled. We know we have 40 identified loose here in the United States. We just had a New York man who was arrested for trying to recruit people into ISIS or ISIL. How many was he successful in doing prior to his arrest? We know they are here.
Iggy says they're looking for at least 4 accomplices in that.
We know they are here. We know that we have a porous southern border. They know we have a porous southern border that can be very easily exploited.
Porous would make the assumption that some parts stop.
You're right. Well, I'm sure there's somebody in Texas with a gun that's plugging a hole somewhere, right? So we have these people. They are loose in the United States. We also have some warnings that there are probably a good chance there may be some lone wolf attacks here in the United States. Correct? Mm-hmm. That's kind of the big concern. Will there be lone wolf attacks? We know the people to conduct those types of attacks are here. So my question, Mr. President, in order to protect the citizenry, are you going to enact some form of federal legislation that's going to allow any citizen to carry a concealed firearm anywhere in the United States without any form of state-issued concealed weapons permit, because the states should not be able to regulate a right guaranteed under the United States Constitution? So, Mr. President, when you say you're going to do everything you can to protect the citizenry, are you going to push legislation or use your pen and phone? But we both know that that's not legal. Are you going to direct your Attorney General to issue opinions? Are you going to call for Congress to issue legislation repealing a lot of the ridiculous gun laws we have on our books so that our citizens can protect themselves if one of these lone wolf attacks happen, if our citizens are being grabbed and kidnapped off the streets like what was planned to do in Australia? And we know this is a global threat, so why can't it happen here? Are you willing to not fight our people and allow our people, which you shouldn't be allowed to do anyways, that we should just have that right, allow our people to defend themselves and carry the firearms or the tools necessary to defend themselves or somebody else from this type of attack? That's my question. And what does he say to that? Well, no, guns aren't the answer. Well, okay, so how are you, Mr. President? Oh, yeah, wait, you have a Secret Service detail. How is somebody not you supposed to fight off somebody, a terrorist, or a group that wants to kidnap them and behead them here on American soil? How are you going to have anybody, U.S. citizen, protect themselves, their family, or other people if they begin a lone wolf-style active shooter attack in a shopping mall or at a school or on a college campus or throughout Washington, D.C., or the city of Sacramento, or wherever, or multiple attacks simultaneously?
Mumbai-style attacks.
Mumbai-style attacks began as active shooter attacks, right? So, are you, Mr. President, really willing to do anything you can? Because I think that would be a huge step.
Mm-hmm.
If ISIS or ISIL or extremists knew that every American, let's say they believed 50% of Americans were armed, legally, I'm not saying you arm the felons or you arm the mentally unstable. And by mentally unstable, Mr. President, I'm not talking about conservatives, nor am I talking about liberals, to be fair. So do you do that by arming those that did not violate the liberties of others and therefore they can still maintain their liberties and carry firearms so that we can respond appropriately to this threat? Because I think the threat of that alone would deter or have a deterrent factor in this type of attack. Then they would go to the campuses where it's a sign, right, or the businesses or the private areas that say, hey, this is private property, this is a gun-free zone.
I love that.
Go to those areas, right? Aurora, Colorado, that movie theater that was attacked was not the closest movie theater to that individual's house. But the movie theater that was attacked had a no-guns policy.
Yes.
Posted on their website.
Yes.
Worked out well for them.
Yes.
Do you think the president would do that?
No.
But he said he'd be willing to do anything he can.
Anything he can.
The reporter, right? Are we safe on American soil?
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
We're not at all. And that's a huge issue right now. Is we are not safe. And you look at what happened. Not one of those 40 out of Washington D.C. where the person took a personal jihad. I forget his name. Brown is his last name. Killed the 4 people. You look at that. You look at the Boston Marathon bombings. You look at Fort Hood. You look at all the recent attacks.
That was workplace violence.
It was workplace violence. All the recent attacks, and it's only going to increase. And listen, we just had the 3 Afghan military officers try to, quote-unquote, defect.
By going to a strip club.
Zachary's in Cape Cod, which I've been to, by the way. And something has to be right if they spent 3 hours in there. They were planning something, because you're not going to go in there for 3 hours for talent. I'm just telling.
It's just not there?
It's just not there. You're not there for 3 hours because the scenery's awesome. It's a little podunk strip joint in the middle of nowhere outside of Falmouth. They're not there. They're there planning. You have to be there planning.
I wonder if that's what tipped them off.
And then they...
Right? These guys are looking at Beatrice a little too long. Something is not right. Beatrice has 3 teeth.
So then I'm telling you, you don't spend 3 hours in there. And then they headed up to
Canada.
Yeah, well, they said they were trying to go to Canada. They ended up getting arrested. But they're by Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is a big American institution. And maybe they were trying to cross into Canada, disappear to come in somewhere else. We don't know. We do know there's a history of insider attacks with Afghanis against Americans. We know that's a fact. We know that Afghans absolutely have Muslim extremists. So, and these guys were trained by us. And it's not the first time that we've had a military-trained person who's an Islamist extremist kill our people. Unfortunately, the last time it happened on our soil, it was done at Fort Hood, which is pathetic. So you have to look at the totality of what's going on.
Was Fort Hood before Boston?
Yes.
Marathon?
But they weren't military-trained. I said a military-trained individual. Fort Hood was before the Boston Marathon bombing. Absolutely.
I thought the older brother had some training overseas.
He had some unofficial training. I'm talking about our military training.
Oh.
Those 4 guys had our military training. They were at the Cape Cod Air Station for a reason. Well, the military reserve. It's there for a reason. They were here for a reason. And they were officers. They were the creme de la creme, if you will, and they're still trying to defect. So there's a lot of issues right there that you need to worry about. Ken said that there was 4 terrorists arrested up in Seattle. I'm going to believe him. I hope he can link that. I'd love to read that report. Debbie does Washerman. Sorry, I just read random things and it makes me laugh. So, and now that we've started bombing them, look, when we were bombing in Iraq, and I even think that ISIS for a minute was like, well, they've already been bombing Iraq. It is what it is. They won't follow us into Syria. They don't have the
90s.
Audacity. Right, it's so 90s to bomb us in Iraq. They don't have the audacity to cross into Syria. And then all of a sudden we're like, I don't know, now we're in Syria. And listen, I know that the president is kicking this problem down the road as much as he can. I know if he really wanted to deal with this, we would have a much bigger response to what's going on right now. I understand all of that. But I will tell you that I get a warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that ordnance is falling on these scumbags.
But ordnance falling on them is not going to
resolve it.
You have to have boots on the ground to hunt them everywhere they are. Bill O'Reilly has been. I've listened to. I listen to him on and off because he's. I agree with him on some things. I disagree with him on some things, and that's okay. But I've read his books, the Killing series books. They're very good. I enjoyed them. And his latest book, I just picked it up the other night, Killing Patton. And he's been talking about this book the last couple days. He talked about it with Megyn Kelly on Fox. He talked about it with Glenn Beck on his show earlier today. And he has he presents the facts surrounding Patton's death, but really the focus of the man Patton was, the leader he was in World War II. And O'Reilly, I was listening to him, and I think it was on Megyn Kelly, where O'Reilly was saying, we don't have a Patton in the United States military today. And I agree with him. This is nothing that I haven't thought myself, but O'Reilly's much more articulate than I am. And to hear him say this on a national scale in that huge forum was a big deal for me. I was very happy that somebody with that big of a voice had the balls
to come out and say it. Yeah, the last one I can think of that was even close really would be Norman Schwarzkopf.
Not
close.
But not like this. So he said, yeah, close, a lot closer than this is.
Yes.
And he said if we had a Patton today who would literally, like, Patton was, there's a quote in the beginning of Killing Patton where he talks about, killing the G-damn Germans and greasing the treads of the tanks with their guts.
Mm-hmm.
We need that type of mentality to go in and kill these fighters.
Right.
And I agree with O'Reilly. O'Reilly makes a great point of it on Megyn Kelly. If you can find the audio out there, I encourage you to listen to it. I agree with him wholeheartedly. We just don't have that grit in our military right now at the upper echelons. We don't. We have a bunch of politicians running around with stars on their epaulets.
Absolutely, and people that were only promoted because of who they knew, not what they knew.
Which we're starting to see more and more of these days.
And you talk to anybody who is former military, even some active duty guys, and I've talked to some earlier today, as a matter of fact, who essentially said, "Listen, the only way you're going to eradicate them is to flood them, and I mean go with everything we have, top to bottom, inside and out, and you drive them, and you make it, like I was saying last week, you make it so they're petrified at night, that if they hear a noise, it could be the footstep coming to kill them. Look, more importantly, it'll be the footstep walking away after the knife was just inserted."
Look, in World War II, we tried to bomb military targets, right? But there were civilian casualties.
Right.
And it's unfortunate.
Yes.
It's war.
Right. War is nasty.
And we're going to see these ISIL fighters start inserting themselves more into civilian populations and whatnot, kind of like we saw the Palestinians do with the. I mean, that's just kind of it seems to be like the thing to do, right?
Right.
You drive around with a civilian so that nobody kills us. Look, this may sound harsh, but we need to kill those people, and by those people I mean the terrorists.
Yes.
If we end up killing an innocent civilian, that's not what we want to do. However, understanding that this is war, and in order to ensure our safety,
and this is war,
right? I think Congress needs to declare war. But understanding where we are in order to protect us, we have to take that shot. We have to kill that fighter. It is not our people putting that person in harm's way.
Right.
It is that terrorist that is putting that person in harm's way.
Yep. And Ag brought up a good point in the chat room, and he said, Muslims, extremists are killing civilians all the time now. Yes, we understand that. And we need to, the problem is we as a nation have this amazing expectation that, and I really think it's so, I blame the news and the media. We show these surgical strikes, and we show how amazingly accurate our military can be, and people are like, well, it should always be like that, and there never should be a miscue.
We talk about winning hearts and minds. Oh, well, it's war. You kill the fighters. You don't kill the civilians. Look, it's war. We don't target the civilians.
Right.
However,
it happens.
If you put a civilian in harm's way, you are a terrorist, and you hide yourself amongst civilians. We are going to kill you, and we are going to drop pamphlets afterwards explaining why we killed you and that you made a choice to hide among the population so that maybe they won't accept you into their villages, homes, whatever it is.
Right. No, I agree.
If you force your way in there, that's sad.
Right.
We don't want to target those civilians. If we are able to go in and utilize a team and have operators go in and execute a very precision operation to get one or two people, excellent. We do that.
I just think it's time that we just go in and we light them up like a Christmas tree. They're expecting...
by the way, nice reference.
Thank you very
with
much.
Muslim and Christmas tree.
Right, I do what I can.
Yeah.
Stop this nonsense about arming the FSA, the Free Syrian Army, and the rebels. Listen, we've watched how bad that has gone in the past. It is not going to happen. It's a fantasy, Mr. President. You said that yourself. I agree. It is a fantasy. We're not there to deal with the Syrians, and I know that they're worried about what's going to happen when ISIS leaves. It creates a power vacuum. Who's going to go in? Will it be the Assad regime, the Aswad regime, or will it be the FSA? Not our problems. We're going in to get the people that are killing Americans and innocent civilians. That's it.
So this is tribal, correct?
Yes.
This is tribal, and a lot of some of the tribal leaders don't trust us because we left them over there, correct?
Yes.
So how do we get that back? How do we get that back? We can't go in and say, "Oh yeah, well now we'll arm you and we'll be here for you," because they know that's
it's not even our problem. But
they know. Hang on, but they know that's not. But we need them. We do. This is a tribal war, and we can have our military in there, and we have to go boots on the ground, and we have to go in and take care of business. But at the end of the day, in order to keep that region semi-stable, why don't we give the Kurds their own country, which they don't have, and allow the tribal leaders there to take care of that problem there and let them figure out their own borders?
The Kurds are the only constant stable there.
They are, but they don't have their own country.
They don't.
So why not?
But that's a different argument. Listen,
but I consider them linked.
No,
because you have to stabilize. Your argument is there's that power vacuum and so forth. That's how you take that off the table.
It's a concern, yes. But now you're starting to talk about redrawing border lines. We are up against the break.
No, we draw the border lines.
Yeah, but that's not even what we should be worried about.
But it's a power vacuum. You just said it yourself.
Bombs.
How do you get rid of that? You can't. You got to go boobs
and bombs. Did
Not
you say
boobs.
Oh.
Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Radio.
Back here on the Sackheads Radio Show. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you everyone who's hanging out in the chat room and everyone who's listening over the magical ways of the intranet. interwebbings.
On the line?
On the line, that's right. On the information cul-de-sac. Just going in circles. We were talking about ISIS before we went to the break and the thing in Syria, and there's a couple things I want to touch on.
Go.
Putin immediately came out and said, "Oh, sovereign state, you don't have the right to bomb it," which I think it's funny. The guy that invades two different countries in what, a span of 7 years?
Yeah.
Is talking about sovereign nations and lines. He's going to use this and try to push this back on us. And, I think the lack of European countries in this bombing run is very telling. I think this is Obama's play to try to say everyone's, this is some of the Arab communities are helping us out, so they're understanding what the problem is. I think that was done by design because the French and the British are still bombing in Iraq. So their lack of bombing was very, very telling. And was a little shocking to me. And maybe they just didn't want to announce that they were involved. I can't imagine that we didn't have the Brits involved with us because they usually are partners and stuff like this because we can trust them. As opposed to, I don't know if the Jordanians are any good with their missiles. I mean, who knows, right?
Do they even have missiles?
They do. They have.
But do they have explosives in them?
I don't know. I just think of the poor guy who's in Italy. Like sitting on the coast, like, eating his pasta or something, and all of a sudden a bomb drops. Hey, what are we doing here? So, that part, it's very interesting to me whether or not they'll get involved. I think it's funny, too, how this president has gone from not knowing who these people were 2 months ago to now they're the biggest threat on the planet. We have to bomb them. And I think it's cute that he threw out this Khorasan group. And I'm not saying that these guys weren't plotting and attacking, et cetera, but I just think it's funny how he threw it out like we were on top of it. Like the ISIS thing when I said they were a JV team, it was misdirection. I was trying to run a reverse.
JVs are pretty good.
A JV's can be pretty good.
JV's pretty good.
But
I'm just saying it's not Russia.
I'm just saying these Al-Qaeda Khorasans, we were on them. We took care of them right away. So he's starting to bolster, and now Congress isn't in session, which they technically have 30 days to pass a resolution on this. Do they not? I believe that's the law. They have 30 days to respond and say yay or nay, which is just bizarre to me. But okay, fine. There's a lot of conservatives and especially people who supported the Iraq war who are coming out now saying, hey, at least, Bush had congressional approval before he started dropping bombs. You've bombed, I think it's 8 countries now. Bush only did 4. Who's the bigger warmonger? Rooster, if he was here, he'd say more and more that, the history is looking better and better for George W. Bush, especially in the Middle East. He knew what needed to get done. We talk about how he warned about the early withdrawal from Iraq being a humongous mistake. We're seeing that come to fruition. This president is being forced. He does not want to do this. The man is a Nobel Peace Prize winner, for God's sakes.
The man has no idea what he's doing on foreign policy.
He does not want to. He doesn't want to throw bombs because it goes against everything he wants. Everything he wants. He wants the UN to do this stuff. He doesn't want America to take the lead on this. He was forced into it. He was forced. And then he went to the UN. He chaired the UN Security Council today, which absolutely makes me laugh. This guy doesn't know anything about security. And what's he doing chairing it? That would be like me chairing like a nuclear biology roundtable. You know what I mean? All right, Sean, we're going to talk about nuclear biology. Why don't you start up with talking points?
Okay. So,
well, when a cell splits...
mitochondria.
It's a mitochondria, and plants use photosynthesis to turn green, and submarines are nuclear powered. You know what I mean? Not exactly my wheelhouse.
Right.
And this guy all of a sudden shows up at the chair of the UN Council, and, Sacco, do we have... we do have the clip. Can you play the clip for me, please? The president talking about Syria at UN today.
The only language understood by killers like this is the language of force. So the United States of America will work with a broad coalition to dismantle this network of death. In this effort, we do not act alone, nor do we intend to send U.S. troops to occupy foreign lands. Instead, we will support Iraqis and Syrians fighting to reclaim their communities. We will use our military might in a campaign of airstrikes to roll back ISIL. We will train and equip forces fighting against these terrorists on the ground. We will work to cut off their financing and to stop the flow of fighters into and out of the region. And already over 40 nations have offered to join this coalition. Today I ask the world to join in this effort. Those who have joined ISIL should leave the battlefield while they can. Those who continue to fight for a hateful cause will find they are increasingly alone.
Please, just
For
stop.
we will not succumb to threats, and we will demonstrate that the future belongs to those who build, not those who destroy. It is time for the world, especially Muslim communities, to explicitly, forcefully, and consistently reject the ideology of organizations like Al-Qaeda and ISIL.
Could he sound any more like Oliver Twist asking for more? Except instead of more, it's leave. Please stop. Please just go. I don't want to do this. Why are you making me throw bombs? This isn't what I do.
Are you okay?
No, that's just what the president was just saying.
Oh.
Seriously. When he talks about this, he couldn't be... you remember like sports athletes when they put them in front of like a video camera and a cue card and make them like read a commercial and they're like, "Hello, I would like to talk to you about Gatorade. It is good for you and good." That's almost what he is like. Like there's no interest in what he's saying anymore. He is so mad that this is all blowing up in his face. Everything is just... Leave the battlefield. Oh, let me know how that works out. Hey, you guys get off my lawn. Get off my proverbial political lawn. This is everything you suck. You bunch of meanies. Oh, let me tell you how the Arabs are helping us and Muslim communities are saying that they don't want this. Don't I have a UN climate meeting to go to? So the UN Security Council that he chaired this.
Right.
Our,
well, yeah, but good news is he's in it for the long haul. He's committed to this. The security is a very important thing. So he's not going to jeopardize that. He's going to stay where he's really needed and really kind of hammer out the things that are going on and meeting with the rest of the Security Council. So I'm glad he was there. You know, he didn't leave or anything like that for some other function or some other
or have
little
Kerry
event or
sit in
something.
for him so he could
Yeah,
leave.
no, he wouldn't do that. I mean, it's too important.
Funny-
The President of the United States has to be there.
Funny you mentioned that. He did.
He did what? He did stay, right? Because he's supposed
he left the UN Security Council meeting.
Oh, must have been an emergency. Is he okay?
Gave the chair over to Kerry to
Is he
go
okay?
to the most important thing.
Was
that he
Michelle
could go
Obama
to.
having a baby again? Did somebody get hurt?
A UN climate meeting.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So we're dropping bombs in Syria. We're dropping bombs in
Which is
Iraq,
really good for the environment.
Which is great for the environment. He may be accidentally dragging us into a quagmire that he has no knowledge about. We may be having to prepare, and we are having to prepare for Islamist extremist attacks here. There's a lot going on right now in the world of security that he may want to sit in that room and pay attention. You know what I mean? Like, he may want to try to get into it and really pay attention. And instead... He shoots off to a climate meeting? Like, he couldn't have got the notes on that? Anything he said right there is going to change anything in the future? No. But where is his base demand that he go to?
Yeah.
The climate meetings.
Well, look, we've said this I don't know how many times. He does not have an international strategy. He never had an international strategy, but he knows what he wants to do domestically. And environmental, I mean, granted, it's the UN environmentalist, but it's huge here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Climate change is big left movement on the left. And so, of course, that's where he goes, right? We stick to what we know. Alinsky.
Stick to what you know.
Right?
Don't get caught in the argument you don't want to have. Get caught in the argument you do want to have.
Right. I don't want to talk about this. I'm going to go over here and talk about, cow feces.
Bombs and Bubba. And Ag had it nailed. At some point, he's going to just walk up to the camera and be like, well, blah, 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 blah. I got to go for a golf game. And just walk away like he is that checked out. He did actually rip Israel at one point during the UN today. Yes, Iggy put up that point. It's a very, very good point. That he did take time out of his day to make sure that he called out Israel or harassed Israel. It depends on how you want to look at it. But at the end of the day, when your country is beginning a new endeavor, a new war, if you will, and you go to the UN, first of all, I don't want you to go to the UN, but okay.
I want you out.
I want you out of the UN. But if you're going to do it.
If you have to.
And you're going to a UN Security Council meeting that you're chairing, why don't you stick to that for a few more hours? Why don't you make that your day? Why don't you show the country how important this is and say, yes, I understand you're having the UN climate meeting. I'll read the notes later, and maybe I'll write a rebuttal or whatever. But this is the most important thing going on right now, not the climate change thing. And listen, there's a million arguments about climate change. I actually had, and I will give this gentleman, I wish I could remember his name. I had a Twitter conversation the other day with the guy on the left, environmentalist. And if I can get it before the end of the show, I actually want to commend him because he had an intelligent conversation with me. We disagreed. He never once got dirty, nasty. He never said, you're... And we had a really good conversation on Twitter. Nice to have. Probably because I was trolling the Flood Wall Street crew on Twitter, but that's not the point. But he engaged me, and I appreciate it, and we went back and forth on science versus, their science versus science that's against them. And his point was like, well, 97% of all scientists agree that climate change is real. And I said, well, 90% of all scientists in the field, out of the field, all scientists everywhere?
Well, climate change is real. It's just whether it's man-made or not, right?
Right.
The climate does change. Right. We just commented how it changed from being kind of warm to windy and cool from between breaks.
Right. The climate did change. And we had the conversation. I said, well, listen. And he said, well, science is almost always accurate. And I said, no, it's not. We like to believe that science is accurate, but let me present to you eggs. Do you remember when we were young, eggs were great for you? Rocky was eating them raw.
Right.
Then as we got older, they were bad for you. The cholesterol, they're going to kill you. This is all judged by science. Scientists are deciding this, folks.
Yes.
And then they went good for you again, but only part of them. And I know this may sound like a Lewis Black bit, but he brings up a very good point. And then it went bad again. And then you can only eat some of them. And then it was the fat-free. And then free-range eggs came out, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, scientists oftentimes have no freaking idea what they're getting at. And a lot of information that we're finding out is being based on scientific information from 40, 50, 60 years ago that was inaccurate, and we're basing studies to this day still on that.
Didn't Al Gore say that by this year the polar ice caps would be totally gone?
Totally gone.
And didn't they
you could surf
didn't they
an Arctic.
Gain in size?
Yeah, they're huge right now. And
like
they're
almost
still
double,
gaining. Yes,
or something. He nailed that.
Yeah,
a scientist told him that.
Yeah. Al, he flew on his jet just to tell everyone all about it. His green jet,
right?
Well, his jet that runs on magic unicorn farts.
Right.
It's amazing to me.
Recycled magic unicorn farts.
Right. Recycled.
Right. Okay.
He caught them. It's shocking to me how people are so quick to buy into, and it's not. I mean, I can look at Germany in the 30s and see another group of people that were quick to just jump on something without really putting a lot of thought into it. But they never, when you bring up other studies that contradict their statements, the lunatics. Oh, those scientists are lunatics? What if they're the only sane ones, and you guys are all lunatics? And I said a lot of the climate funding is being pushed by green companies and green groups. That's where their money's coming from. So what answer do you think they're going to give? It's jaded. And he's like, oh, there's cross committees that blow. It's cross committees of the same people investigating it.
Or those are people that, rather than just kind of look at where the science takes them, they have a theory and they look for evidence to prove the theory,
yes,
as opposed to looking to see where the evidence takes them.
Right.
And there are people like that.
And he said, well, we have carbon readings from 300,000 years ago that was trapped in the ice versus today.
How do you know it was trapped 300,000 years ago?
Right.
How do you know our dating methods
aren't way off?
Could
have been 2 weeks ago.
Like, how do you
know?
How do you start like 30,000 years ago? Does somebody mark it? And then, like 30,000 years. Well, I know because
they chiseled into the ice 30,000 years ago.
Right. So, like every year we check it, and that's how we know. Cause you don't know.
Right. You don't know. And I said to him, okay, let's say it was 300,000 years of research or of carbon locked.
Well, math, carbon does blah blah blah.
Right.
So
often, I turned around and I said, that's 300,000 years, and then internal combustion, the use of oil and gas, is 200 years old, give or take, depending on. So we're going to say that we know everything we need to know about the environment for the 200 years that we used our science, and then our science again to judge something that happened 300,000 years ago. And there's enough of side-by-side comparison to say that, oh, we're definitely the ones doing this damage.
Where we have no idea
right,
what the conditions were at that time. Listen, something happened because dinosaurs died.
Right.
Like an entire species
we got hit by an asteroid.
Or something, right? How do you know it wasn't climate change? Maybe they farted too much.
Well, because the science points to the fact that there was an asteroid.
But we don't know.
Right.
What was a Stegosaurus filming said asteroid crashing into the planet?
I understand. I agree with you. We don't know. We have hypotheses. We have guesses. And yes, is it totally possible that our actions interact with the climate that it changes?
There's no doubt we interact with our climate.
But do we affect the overall change? We may.
Remember the big hole in the ozone?
Yes. Where did that go? Aquanet. Everyone was so worried about the CFCs in the can.
I know. I used Aquanet to burn spiders.
All you older people out there, do you remember late 70s, early 80s when they were warning of the impending ice age?
All you older people out there.
we
were around in the 80s.
I tried. But we were being warned of the impending ice age that was coming. Scientists.
They were talking about the movie.
Scientists.
They've had a few of them.
No. Scientists were telling us, ice age is coming. We're in a cold spell.
No.
It's going to happen.
No, those were animators. They were working on this project. It was a movie project.
The world's most brilliant scientist, ice age. Listen, I immediately got accused of not caring about the environment. Not by that guy. It was actually by somebody else. They were having a conversation. Iggy, yes. They were going to paint the polar ice caps black to warm up the Earth. Science, baby. It was all science. I said, no, I do like the environment. I do appreciate what we have. I just think that we make ourselves way more important to the Earth than we actually are. I think it's very, very, very conceited to think that we have more influence over the Earth than the Earth does to itself. And look at what happens, in my opinion, and this is my humble opinion, when we go too far in certain places, guess what happens? Mother Nature takes it back.
Right, kind of like the wildfires since we're not allowed to burn underbrush anymore.
Right.
So, because of the environment.
And logging, and now they're saying there's so many trees in certain areas because logging was, Weed, California was a good example, and the King Fire.
Weed, California, what a great name
place.
For a city
it was named after a
California.
person, allegedly.
Right, of course.
But they're saying because of the logging industry going away in California that now these fires burn harder, faster, and hotter because they can jump tree to tree that's right next to it, whereas before there were certain distances they were allowed to cut trees between trees, and it actually gave the 100 feet of defensible space that they now want you to dig.
Yes.
So by
the
environmentalists, and never mind, and if you haven't heard the tragic story from Weed, read about Weed, California. It's a very tragic story. Half the town was wiped out. They almost lost the only mill, which is the only job source in the town. Churches, homes, hundreds of homes. Horrible, horrible story, and I'm not making light of what those folks went through as well. But, we are way too conceited about what we think we do to the earth. Do I think that we should be throwing trash cans and trash and everything into the ocean at will? No. I don't think you should throw away the six-pack things because I have seen a dolphin with it wrapped around its, stuff like that. I understand. It does. The trash directly affects certain animals and stuff like that. And listen, the biggest environmentalists out there, the real ones, are hunters. Because and they,
hunters and scuba divers.
The two biggest ones going. Usually very conservative for the most part.
A lot of the ones I've talked to, yeah.
And they say, they will tell you, no, the trash is the bigger problem. People who throw crap out the window and stuff like that, that's the bigger problem. We don't know what any of that stuff does yet. It's all hypothesis. It's
science.
Jersey Joe in the chat room, I hate dolphins. We hate whales at this
we do hate whales
at
this
show.
studio.
We've been saying that for a long time.
Kill the whales. Listen, we only have 5 minutes left. I want to get your thoughts on something. So simmer down on your environmental rhetoric for a moment. What do you think about the ruling that the judge made where the Boston Marathon bomber trial will remain in Boston?
Awesome ruling. Because to the jurors, I think it puts them in the heart of where it happened. And I think
can he get a fair trial from a Massachusetts jury?
Sure. Did I say that without winking? I tried to say that without winking.
I didn't see. I was looking away.
No, listen, it keeps them in the heart of the damage that they caused and the tragedy that they caused. It keeps them he will truly be judged by his peers as he lived in the Boston area, and his peers will be from the Boston area. It keeps it real. It's not like if they move it. And listen, we talk about this. A prime example is 9/11. I think people that lived closer, and I'm not saying they weren't affected, but I think people that lived closer to New York City when it happened were more emotionally affected than people that lived further away.
Look,
because it's there.
I think that they should have allowed a change of venue, and I think they should have moved it to Texas.
No.
Why no?
Because I think Boston wants it. I think Boston wants to see it happen.
You think Boston wants to hang him?
Oh, yeah.
How can you get a fair trial then?
Well, I mean, if the evidence points to it.
Right. So,
and then if they do, they want to hang him.
Right. Oh, we saw him on video doing this? Yeah, that's evidence. We'll go ahead and hammer him on that.
No, I think it's a brilliant ruling. I'm glad the judge did the right thing. I'm glad. I'm glad. It sounds like he either didn't listen or I have heard rumors on the ground in Boston that the feds, the AG, wanted that pushed out of Boston. So the fact that he kept it in Boston, and that's only rumor and innuendo. It's not. I can't confirm.
But defense made the motion to put it out of Boston.
Oh, yeah.
Defense wanted it in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like the Attorney General's office fought it successfully and got it to stay in Boston.
Yeah, the AG's office in Boston. Yeah, big difference.
Yeah.
And more importantly, the judge made the right ruling.
Yeah. Hey, boss, sorry, we tried. I really didn't put up that big of a
guy
fight.
on the stand's a real jerk.
Yeah.
He's a stickler. Hey, listen, folks. It is time for us to depart for the week. I'm going to be back Tuesday the 20th, and I'm the 30th, and I'm hoping Clint might join me. We're going to host the exceptional one, Ken McClinton's show, here from the SHR Media Studios while he is in transit, and check us out there.
That brings up an interesting point. So for the night,
yes,
would we have to call it? Would Ken have to call it the Exceptional Conservatives show?
We can ask him to make the motion.
Just for one evening.
We can ask him to make the motion. That would be great.
Because otherwise, I guess we would both channel him together, and that sounds perverted, which is not how I meant it.
Not how we meant it at all.
Not how I meant it at all.
Hey, check out 1 p.m. tomorrow for Islam Exposed on Blog Talk Radio. Our good friend Ag and Kel host that on RFB Radio. Make sure you check out all the great writers. There's a great article right now on shrmedia.com by our friend Rosie Dale. Will college make you a liberal? And I think it's definitely worth a read. Check out the new guy, Jersey Joe, here at SHR Media. On Spreaker, Follow us at Spreaker.com/Sackhead, SHR Media.
Maybe Jersey Joe owns a coffee shop. Maybe that's the name of a coffee shop.
It should be the name of a coffee
Jersey
shop.
Joe. It should be.
Joe, let's get on that
Let's
one.
get on that one. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Thank you to everyone in the chat room. Iggy, Ken, Gulf, everyone. Sacco, thank you so much for staying in the cage tonight and staying the hell out of our way.
Sacco?
We will see you
Where is
next
Sacco?
Wednesday evening. Sacco, can we get outro music or what?
Sacco? Sacco. I don't know what happened to Sacco. Did you? I think Sean locked the cage door, and Sacco was unable to get out. I think he did that last break because I haven't seen Sacco literally since before last break. I don't know where he went.
And listen, there are no people better
This is a fun
on the
show.
air to give you the
I love
best
this show.
in conservative
I love it. Hey, I'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Who's up for a beer? Or 5?
I'm going to go for a case.
I'm not going to drive.
Good.
But I'm going to drink. Maybe a couple.
For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio. The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America. And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.